Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Kansai Kollective Mesa Questberry. Today I'm joined with
Stefan
Saxonoff, the owner, manager, nightclub extraordinaire at Pure, Osaka. Today, tune in for some episodes talking about early nightlife in Japan back in the 80s and 90s, some of his crazy stories, and a lot of started with a business in Japan. We'll see you guys on the episode.
Kansai Kollective, west side of Japan, we out here coolin', Zane and Nesa got connections. We know you got questions. Ain't no need to worry.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Kansai Collective. My name is Asa Questenberry, joined always with me, my host to
Zane,
the right.
Live in the Kansai, baby.
I thought you weren't going to say it. I thought, we always got to tease him. Is he going to say it or not? That's Zane's slogan.
Asa has something on his pants that shouldn't be there.
Keychain.
A keychain.
A brand new keychain that Zane's family bought me and sent me here. It's lovely.
Nice.
Wonderful. Zane, joined with us joined with us for the first time. We're your first podcast?
Yeah, first podcast.
Virgin
podcast. Man.
Virgin podcast.
Yeah.
We'll just take that card from you.
But
Welcome
he's
to the Kansai.
he's an OG, baby.
Welcome. Please introduce
thank you.
yourself, sir.
I'm Stefan Saxonoff. Grew up in Philadelphia and New York, and been in Japan 34 years.
34
Ooh,
years.
Shaquille, baby.
I don't think people watching have any idea that this is probably one of the most OG Osaka.
You just saying I'm old.
But veteran is an understatement because you've always been based.
No, I haven't actually.
I'm wrong.
But no, it's funny. I do speak Kansai Ben completely. I've completely assimilated. But I was in Tokyo for half the time, maybe less than half actually. Tokyo about until 2005. I was mostly based in Tokyo, and then since then I've been based in Osaka.
Okay. Well, you've been here for 34 years, and normally foreigners, they teach English, and you are definitely, by the look of you, are not teaching English. What do you do out here?
I could be an English teacher.
You could be an English
You think
teacher.
so?
You never know.
Well, I didn't
Nah.
used to look that way, but today I could be. Looking at me now, but yeah.
Okay, well, excellent.
That mustache does not give me English teacher vibes.
Oh, right, I hear you. All right.
At
Stash
what
gives me
point?
a
At
word.
what point did the stash come out? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's funny. I was working on a project back in Tokyo before I started living in Osaka, and I ended up. It was a long-term project. It was a programming thing, yeah. Anyway, 6 months, and I was rarely leaving the house. I just let the entire beard grow. I did the whole homeless thing. It was it was the longest I ever got. It was down to here. It was a big ass bushy thing. Kind of it. It wasn't as gray as. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, watch that
watch that
language,
language,
my boy.
What's great is we preface this with "Please don't cuss." It's a minute in.
A minute
love
in.
it.
Sorry.
Love it. It's okay.
Yeah, it's. Have to
A
bleep
large
that,
beard,
bleep that.
large gray
A very,
beard.
very, very big, big beard, big, fluffy, like a sheep. And I loved
Cute.
grabbing it. Yeah, when it was down here, and I've never had it that long because usually with whatever you're doing, whatever kind of work you do, you generally don't walk around like you look homeless. But my hair was growing out and everything. And when I came back to Osaka, I trimmed it up a little bit, tried to make it look nice, and everyone was like, no, that doesn't fly. You got to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try not to use any of those four-letter words there. But anyway, everyone's telling me, now you got rid of that. I want to leave something, so I left the stash, and it curls pretty naturally. So I just
really?
put a little wax in it.
Waxed it
Yeah,
up.
a little wax it up, and there you go.
I'm always envious, man. You got okay facial hair. You got much better
Okay.
No,
facial
you got
hair.
solid
Good,
facial hair.
baby.
I've got the opposite. I couldn't if someone held a gun to me and was like, "We give you 6 months to grow a beard." It's well, that's gonna be lovely.
You look
6
like a
months.
Well, you
kid
got
that's
that
going
baby
through
face, it's all
puberty, bro.
See?
You got the puberty beard.
Zane, come on, man. Well, guys, thank you for joining us, Stefan. Thank you always, Zane. As well, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to the deck here in Honmachi, Osaka, Japan. If you guys are looking for a share office, a maker space, no better place than here in the deck. As always, thank you, Hinomaru, bringing out tons of new fashion line, bringing traditional Japanese styles for the modern sense.
Yes, wow.
Skyscape
beautiful.
Kabushigaisha. We had a little bit of a
Skyscape.
rebrand, as well as Edge Wilderness, our editor and producer-in-chief, Aaron. We appreciate you guys. So, Zane, what do you want to start with today? Where do you want to take it? Do you want to tell us about your day? You want to talk with Stefan,
why
man?
not?
What's up?
There's tons of things. I mean, it's about to be fall, right? And then we got the foreigners coming in, the visitors, tourists coming.
The foreigners are
Yeah,
coming.
we are foreigners.
Foreigners
But,
are coming, yeah.
Yeah, the tourists, they're coming October 11th.
Which is, I think, unprecedented because, not unprecedented, but I think, well, especially for Stefan, but for me, my experience in Japan can be split into pre-COVID, COVID, and now we're entering this, like, I guess COVID's finished.
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID, right. But for the last 2.5, 3 years, there's been no travelers, right? Which for the first, 25% of my time in Japan, it was nothing but travelers. So what do you think? Are you guys excited for foreigners to be back?
Yeah, actually, that's the biggest thing for us right now. I mean, it's been tough. Like, depending on the business, got a few different businesses, and depending on the business, like we've definitely pushed up our Japanese customers to keep in touch, keep things going. But some of the businesses really need that bump, and so we're prepping to trying to get our SNS, everything on point.
Right.
Our search result, get up top, get all that stuff on point, because it's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen immediately though. It's gonna probably be end of year.
Yeah, for me, I'm only happy because I want Japan to thrive. So, because everyone's talking about Japan's, the economy's not doing well. So, having the tourists come through, a lot of people are going to be making money.
Spend your money here. Come to Japan and spend your money.
With the yen the way it is, it's definitely going to be huge. I mean, I don't know. I'm American, so when people start rolling in, the dollar is just through the roof. So,
right.
I mean, it's the highest it's been since I've been here. When I first, it's insane. It was down as low as 74 when I was here. So.
They said I was watching the news this morning. They said the yen has lost 25.7% of its value in a year, which is that means your money's worth 25.7% less in a year. It's the lowest it's been since 1970. Wow. So it's come, please spend your money.
Yeah, well, only if you leave Japan is your yen worth less. Well, except for inflation.
True, very true.
Nah, but I go to Kyoto often, and I go to a lot of vegan restaurants. You feel me? And I'm scared for these lines, man. These lines are about to get crazy. When I used to. You would just be able to walk into a store, sit down and eat, but now it's going to be you got to wait in line. And
do you think even for the local spots that'll be a problem?
Maybe. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember how local spots were before COVID. Right. But
that's also the other interesting part is that was 3.5 years ago. You very well could have not known those spots prior. Of course, Kyoto and being able to visit some of the temples, that's been the best part, right? It's a lot of the tourist spots that are normally just slammed, right? That'll change, which is unfortunate.
But it's just the Matsuris this year, the festivals, it was the first time in 3 years where they had the festivals, and it was just tons and tons of people. Those fireworks, you went to the fireworks?
No. I avoided the crowds and just watched them.
Yeah. That was crazy.
I decided not to go. It was going to be too much.
No way. And sure enough, man, checking by people's Instagrams, it was just
slammed.
Oh, it was disgusting.
Slammed.
Disgusting. Yes.
All right, hold on, man. Stefan, you got a lot of experience out here. What places in Osaka are you really you digging out in Osaka?
Well, first I'm going to put my own spot, so.
That's fine. Please do it.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, Google isn't always right, but if you look at best clubs in Osaka, Pure comes up number one.
So this is the preface we didn't get. Stefan hasn't even said. He's I'm excited for foreigners to come back. What do you do, sir? That's probably the first conversation.
So currently, mainly involved in the bar and nightclub business, and have one of the oldest clubs, in Osaka, called Club Pure Osaka, and it started out in Yokohama, then Tokyo and Osaka, but now Osaka's the only one left. But it is quite nice. It's doing actually quite well with the Japanese clientele, but we're known for having a decent amount of foreigners, and our music is definitely it's hip hop, R&B, with some reggaeton, but we tend to be more cutting edge than most other clubs. So foreigners that know the music definitely helps bring up the vibe. So looking to add that in as well.
All right. So wait. So how long has Pure been going on
Operating.
for? Yeah.
In Osaka, it's our 18th year.
18th.
Yeah, but the original was in Yokohama, and that was 27 years ago or something like that.
I love telling the guy who's owned a club for 27 years to PG-13 his language.
Yeah, and I thought I could easily, but obviously not.
Yo, so for me, I'm curious because you started Pure. What was the obstacles to start that? Are there certain taxes you gotta pay? What did you have to go through to open that as a foreigner?
Heavy
18 years ago, you feel me?
Yeah. So it was Well, it was in the 90s when I first started Pure in Yokohama. And the thing is, the club laws back then were different as well. But it's really bizarre because they kind of like took all these, these laws were started out in the like after Second World War.
Oh.
So they're really like, anachronistic, and there's a lot of BS involved in them. And they put together like the shops with the
Shops.
yeah, with shops, with the hostess clubs and the nightclubs.
They
and,
all said the same thing, right?
And yeah, they just basically like bundled them all up into one ball of joy that is not joyous whatsoever, because we're associated with a very like underground aspect
Right.
of Japan, and so we have to put up with a lot of the same regulations that they do. And that makes it a lot harder, hurdle. In Japanese, the shiki is takai. It's like
right,
a really
hold on.
hard hurdle.
I'm sorry, bro. Tons of questions flowing through my brain right now.
Yeah, fire away.
Let them rip.
Yeah, like, what was I gonna say?
You don't even what you. I got tons of questions. What am I gonna say?
No, yeah, we'll
Are
just
you-
have
can
to
I
go
jump
back.
in?
Yeah, go ahead. Do your
So,
thing.
I have two questions. One of which is because I know a story that I would love for you to tell if you're
Okay.
able to.
Yeah.
All right, before you get into that, beautiful. What was the club scene like before you started Pure though? Like what
Okay.
was a club scene in Japan?
That's a
You
really
feel
good
me?
question, actually. That's a good question. So back in
They had really good music in the '80s, bro.
Well, actually, yeah, no, it wasn't bad at all. So I came here in '88, yeah, and back then I was living in Tokyo, so Roppongi was the place to be. And thing is, there were like the underground, there were still underground clubs, and there were the big style clubs. Back then, Juliana's was the, and they didn't know the word club. Club was meant reserved for hostess clubs or host clubs.
okay.
So yeah, they said club, and they actually like it's weird. They say club. They do this with a lot of Japanese words like club. The intonation is different for nightclubs compared to hostess clubs.
Club.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, but so I would say, yo, let's go club, and let's go to the club, and people would be like, oh, what? I'm like, yeah, dancing. They're like, oh, disco. So they still were calling it disco in the 80s.
Okay, fire.
So we go to the disco, and the main disco that every person, Japanese my age, that even that lived in anywhere in Japan, they all know about Juliana's in Tokyo, in Roppongi. It was actually in a place called Shibora, but very close to Roppongi, and it was hilarious because back then there was something called bodycon. It's body conscious. Women would wear the tightest dresses they could fit their bodies into,
Fire.
big ass hair, and they at this one club it became a thing, and I don't know how it started, but they'd buy the most intricate fans, sensi, right, and wave them around as they dance, and then. Back then, like clubs could only be open until 12 midnight or 1 a.m. and or discos, and so you get like on Friday night was a big night because everyone after work would go, and so you got these guys, salarymen in their cheap suits with these gorgeous like feathery fans. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. They're like, and the girls are on the
Platform,
tachidai on the
yeah.
platforms dancing there, and the guys are like looking up. They got fans, some girl and regular chicks would get up too, and they'd be dancing, looking at them, like waving the fans around, as off rhythm as you could possibly get.
As
Because
off
back
rhythm.
then, Japanese, even the dancers couldn't dance. I mean, I think it was the influx of hip hop got everyone dancing right, but I mean, back then, really, you could not imitate more
there
off rhythm
wasn't-
dancing than they. Yeah, it was pretty hilarious.
Shops.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Isn't there a word? What's the word for like not night? Is it nightlife? But I feel like there's a specific word.
You mean well.
Right, you know what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah,
like a specific.
fuegyo,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
What is
Fuegyo,
Fuegyo.
like fuegyo, like so fuzogegyo is the full name. Fue is the short term fuegyo, but so the name of the law is called fueho, and fuzoku literally means kind of like the way of the times or whatever. It's the literal translation, but generally when you say fuzoku, you mean you're going to a shop. You say, if you talk about fuzoku, so us being part of fuegyo kind of made it make you look a little dirty, even though it's just people dancing.
Right. Because I don't know if you've heard, but because there was a law in Japan where you couldn't dance.
Well, okay, I can tell you, I went all the way to Supreme Court for this, so I know it more than most
This is what
people.
I wanted.
Yeah.
Yes, this is always time to talk about.
So
Please.
actually, just a quick background. So after Pure, in 2005, I was the first Pure in Yokohama. The reason it's closed, I was the first club in all of Japan to get shackled up for having people dancing.
Jail.
Wow.
Jail.
That's so
Can't
crazy.
dance.
Shops in jail.
But dude, it was absolutely the most ridiculous thing. Now the thing is, they came to us and they said, "All right, you can get a 24-hour bar license or a club license, and if you wanted to stay open, and everyone was staying up till 5 a.m. except for the big places like I said, Juliana's. But back then there was Valfare, and there used to be a place called Gold. Anyway, but the big corporate style clubs, they had the standard club license, and they would close at midnight or 1, depending on where they were located. Anyway, we were located in an area that was off, and we'd been open for years, 8 years, I think, before this happened, and everyone was open until then. Now, there's this crazy law that came out, and I don't want to get into the details of it, but I found out the reason much later. Anyway, they show up one day and give us a warning saying, okay, you guys, you got to either, get this license or you can't, or you can't be open after midnight. You can't have dancing after midnight. That's the thing.
No dancing. That was the law. No dancing.
Well, no dancing after midnight, actually, depending on what you couldn't have dancing if you didn't have the club light. It's kind of complicated. But at any rate, we followed the law. Like there's this, the police have this thing where Akeshi, a really top level police guy.
Detective?
Inspector.
Yeah, inspector.
Inspector, right. Yeah. And he acts like the judge, jury, and executioner basically for this guy. But anyway, I went in, presented all sorts of evidence. I said, listen, this, and this law, it's been around on the books for so long, and, we were just following like the standard, and at any rate, I was like, but if we're going to get arrested, if we have dancing, we won't have dancing. So I showed that we'd bolted down tables, that we had put the lighting up, that the music was lower, everything, and we had no dancing signs throughout the club. And at any rate, so they never expected us to follow it. They just assumed that we would ignore it because, but we did follow it. So it was a Friday night, Saturday morning, to be technical, 1:21 p.m. or 1:20 a.m. And I found out from the police reports afterwards that they had 70 cops in riot gear waiting, because normally we have about 400 people in the house at that time. You know how many we had? 23. 23 customers,
just a chill
staff.
Evening, relaxing.
Yeah. And there are a couple people maybe rocking to the music or whatever, but that's it. There was no dancing, no dancers, no nothing. We got a DJ, but he's playing, he's playing tunes that are like, everyone's just hanging out. But 23 people compared to usually 4. That's why they had 70 guys in riot gear, because they expected there to be. So we're following the law. So there's no way we're losing. We're losing our shirts. I mean, we're losing money big time. But I didn't want to get arrested, obviously, especially as a foreigner in Japan. There's no way you want to take that risk. Just trying to figure out what we can do. But I figured best not to get arrested, so we weren't going to, except that we did. And there was and they came in, raided the place. I was actually at my other place in Tokyo at the time, and we had another Pure on Sentagai in Shibuya. And but they called me in, and I was being a bit cheeky. The guy called me up. I was like, "What? You're going to arrest me for having dancing?" There were 20. I heard there were 20 some people, and my manager, business partner, were in already linked up inside the police station. So I already knew. They had texted me. And I'm like, well, and they said, well, we just want to come in and talk to you. I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, you know what? You can come out and get me. So I didn't want to be like, as if I was running away. So I went to the Shibuya police station, just sat there, smoked a few cigarettes, and waited for them to show up, and they were not happy.
So they take you in, right?
Yeah.
From that point, so you are going, so technically you were the first club, like you said, that got bopped.
In 2005, I believe it was, yeah.
For dancing.
And mind you, you're doing all this in Japanese, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, but my Japanese was already fluent then. I'd been a professional translator before that, so among a zillion other things I've done. But they came anyway. But so it's so ridiculous. Okay, people were dancing, and they just wanted us to sign a thing admitting that. At first I was like, no, we're not going to do that. And then, we're in a couple of days. They're holding us a couple of days for. I'm like, geez, for having a few people dancing, and they weren't even dancing. Right. I'm like, you're gonna lock us up and spend all this money?
Assumption of dancing.
It was just so ridiculous. It was so absurd. I couldn't get it over.
Yeah, even
my
like
head.
a big city like Tokyo, like in New York.
Well, this is Yokohama actually, but yeah.
Oh, okay, Yokohama. Okay.
But still dancing.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, how can this be? How can I be arrested for this? Like, fine. What's the? All right, fine. If you want me to sign, admit to there was dancing, I'll sign it. And then they're like, no, we've got to interrogate you. About what? I'm saying, all right, you're saying that these people were dancing. All right, I'll say they were dancing. Fine, and they'll pay the fine. And they kept me in there for 21 days.
Wow.
And without knowing when you get out, and they wanted me to sign like this most ridiculous thing. The prosecutor wrote up this absurd, ridiculous, just dumbass BS thing, just to make it as make me seem as guilty as possible. I was doing this, and I told you guys I made it. Bolted down tables. There were only 23 people there. I was following the law, and yet they wanted me to admit that. I was like, but after being in there, and that's why they do it, they can keep you 21 days without question, and you can't even get a lawyer before you talk to them. So
wow.
So this is what I've heard from people, where it's like a common practice, because Japan's got, I think it's like a 99.8% conviction rate or something. It's basically if you get arrested, you're getting charged, like regardless. But what they'll do is they'll keep you 20. Like let's say you have 4 charges, right? They'll keep you 21 days. Yeah. Charge you for the first thing, keep you another 21 days.
It, yeah.
Oh wow!
And the premise is they're trying to mentally
Yeah,
break you
just
down.
break you down.
So that you
Yeah.
sign whatever.
Yeah,
you
so
know, please
there's
sign
so
it.
many forced confessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
ridiculous.
So Stefan went through that, right?
Yeah, I went
you,
through that.
You went through that, and from what you told me, you didn't just roll over. In that sense.
No, actually, no. I waited till actually it was the last day. It's funny. So we're in. Here's a funny story. So they would hold before the prosecutors interviewing you, interrogating you. You're in. Well, the first day I got in, I was kind of a pain in the butt. So they put me in a private cell, solitary, and
A luxury cell.
a luxury private.
Luxury
I was happy
cell.
to be my own. I didn't want to be in a room with like 7 other guys farting and speaking in like in a coffin.
Farting and speaking in Japanese.
Yeah, so I was happy to be on my
Doesn't
own.
sound
Except
good.
it was December and it was cold as ice. I was gonna say use a different word, but you know. But anyway, yeah. So, but I was totally good with that. I run hot anyway. So, but you're allowed to get a copy of the law books. So I got a copy of that and reading them every day, like just going over stuff. And I already gone over a lot of it to deal with the thing I had with the police in the first place. But I'm
Mind
going
you,
over
in
that.
Japanese, guys. In
Yeah.
Japanese,
He's
doing this.
sitting in jail, and he asked for the law book in Japanese to read it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Anyway, it was kind of an old one. I was like, "You got anything newer? Like, hasn't this been updated?" And they're like, "Nah, that's all we got." I'm like, "All right, whatever." Got a notebook and I was just filling it up, writing in Japanese. And the guys were always interested in talking to me, like, what's going on. But I remember anyway. So to get to the point, the 3 stories below the courthouse, they bring us in real early. It busts us in. We're all like linked up, ropes around our waist and everything. And this is me, and I'm in there with arsonists.
Murderers.
Murderer, fucking yakuza guys, and like all just guys like meth dealers, and like a guy who was extorting this other guy. Yeah, shouldn't probably get into details, but anyway, these guys.
You're just in there for dancing.
Yeah.
Jail.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, so this was one advantage of it being like in the same category, because when the guys, these kind of slightly scary, yakuza are asking me like, "What are you in for?" I could just say "fueho," and they just assumed that it was like for the sex business. So it made me seem a little bit cooler. So I was sitting there for dancing, and I looked really like just too vanilla.
You didn't tell them for dancing.
No, I just fueho. I said, they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, I got it."
This guy
Not
gets
a hodo.
it. This
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
gets it.
No, they could just
Meanwhile, you're like-
make their own assumptions. No, I was holding my own. Well, this is the funny story. So they're holding us 3 stories below 3 stories below the courthouse, and it's a long time, and it's the middle of winter, cold as, and you got an open toilet. Can use another word, but you got an open toilet there, and you got like 20 guys, and you're all like linked up, and you're like, and you're sitting there, and everyone's like, and the heat's on, but it's not enough, and you're just like,
Of course.
and it's really annoying, and you're waiting for hours and hours. Anyway, then someone goes to take a dump, and it is nasty. I mean, to be in the same room, and it's right in front of you too, and the smell just fucking wafts through the air, and the windows are closed because it's cold. So I go over to the window and open the window up, and everyone's like, no, it's too cold. I'm like, it's too smelly.
I'm dying.
So then we get in a little bit of a scuffle, and I'm like, all right, hold up. So I'm just like, I bring the window down. I'm like, this all right? Like this? I'm just sitting there like trying to suck fresh air until I'm like sitting there, But yeah, it was, the stories I heard though were just absolutely like ridiculous.
God,
You're probably just sitting there and you're like,
Why am I here?
You're
Why
like,
am I here
"What?
with these
How
guys?
am
Are
I
real
just-
criminals. I'm like,
I'm just trying to get my groove on.
I've never even gotten a moving violation in Japan. Parking tickets, yeah, but I mean, and this I'm getting arrested for this.
All right, so let's go to the
climax.
Yeah, what happens? What happens?
Well,
in the end of
eventually
it?
I paid the fines and everything. We got shut down, and then Shibuya as well. Like they started sniffing around Shibuya because Tokyo was the next place we went to after Yokohama, and we realized
the Shibuya
we had
Pure.
Shibuya Pure back then.
okay.
Yeah. But also right now in at the time, a smaller place I've had for 21 years in Shibuya is called Ruby Room Shibuya, and it's kind of a live house DJ bar, and we were still under the radar, so we were okay with that. But the Pure Shibuya, we were kind of worried about. We worked it out. Luckily, the building was about to get knocked down, so we were just working out how to arrange. You get paid something called Tatsinoki, like to get out of a lease. They pay you to get out because when they want to take down the building, someone bought the building. Anyway, so the timing worked out. Then we just had Pure Osaka left.
Cut your losses and just.
Yeah, and then
So-
yeah.
Is that the reason, because of all that happening, is that what pushed you into being more so based in Osaka?
Not particularly, to be honest with you. I was still like, even then, I saw business. I saw a Ruby Room in Tokyo, and also I own my own apartment in Nakameguro and another place I rent.
Hold on, that's Nakameguro is a pretty expensive area,
It's
right?
a small place. It's a studio, but I love it. It's just
Closet.
nice, small,
Nice
right on the nice. River. It's a sweet spot. I love it. It's a nice little bachelor pad. Being a bachelor, you know. But yeah, so I just fell in love coming to Osaka. I'd be there most of the time. Come here like once a month, and just slowly fell in love with
Shinkansen? You took the Shinkansen? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from someone who's, I mean, you've been doing business in this country for quite some time. You know, you've seen it all essentially, and you've done business in Tokyo. You've done business in Osaka. What were some of the aspects that, because you spend most of your time in Osaka these days, right? So I guess my question is, what pushed you towards more so basing yourself in this area as opposed to staying in Kanto?
Well, honestly, it's just the people. Well, there are a number of reasons. After losing a couple businesses and a lot of money as well, like things were tough for a bit. But owning your own place, it's like you don't have to pay much. So living in Tokyo wouldn't cost me that much. Also, having my own place, I mean, most of my money is spent on drinking. So but Osaka, the people, the
community,
food, the community, like. Even the foreign community is a lot friendlier. People are a lot, it's much more chill.
Asa's worried about the business or why you came to Osaka. I want to know, what is the weirdest thing you've seen in these clubs when you was running these clubs?
The
in
little
Tokyo?
fans, you already told, man, and the off rhythm.
Like what was
the off rhythm grooving?
like something you've just never.
I know where you're
seen.
angling at.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a story for you. But this was in Tokyo.
Okay.
All right, so it's Shibuya before we had to close Shibuya Pure. So it's about to close, and it's funny. Like, so in Osaka, people stay till the last minute. It's like, it could be going on, 5 a.m. and the club's still packed, right? In Tokyo, they tend to like leave like, half hour, a little after 4, people start to filter out a little bit, and then around, close to 5, it's pretty much, people are out. So it's a little bit before 5, and got my security there. Me, I'm just in front of the bar, like sipping on a drink. Now, luckily, there are only like maybe 20 some customers that night. I think there were maybe a few hundred, but it's gone down, maybe 40, 50, but a lot less than usual, not packed. This guy, huge guy, turns out he was military, like really big guy, bleeding from his mouth, looks like got a couple teeth knocked out, and he runs in, like big blood all over his shirt, he runs in, grabs 2 full bottles off the bar and runs back out, and we're all just like, because we're in like, kind of like down mode.
You guys are tired. It's like
we're just like, and this guy runs in, I'm like, what the F? And I just run out with him, and my guys, two of my bartenders jump over the bar, and my security guys run, but I'm first because I'm closest to him, and I chase him, and he runs down the stairs. We're like on the third floor, but we did a walk up because it was, at any rate, he's running down. I run chasing him down. I'm just like, I have no idea what's going on. Get down the bottom of the stairs, and there were 2 guys with knives about this long, hands wrapped in towels. One guy with an axe, hand wrapped in towel, chasing him. Then he runs, doubles back. I get to the bottom of the stairs. I see them. I freeze. He runs behind me. It's obvious they're chasing this guy. He runs behind me, back up to the mezzanine, and then as I'm yelling to them to stop, I stop. They stop for a second, and then 2 bottles whizzed by, literally missing me by like that. I felt one like he threw the whole bottle, and we're talking full bottles. Could have like killed, seriously, from the second floor. He could have killed, and luckily it missed all of us. Thank you, but it didn't hit anyone. But then they start to run up, and I'm like, whoa, guys. In Japanese, guys, I'll bring him down. We'll bring him down. It's, there are customers inside. We'll bring him down. And then I go to the staff. I'm like, let him out the back way and call the cops. Because no way I'm going to let them
get involved.
Well, if they were going to kill him, everybody not inside the club. But either way, obviously, I'm not going to let this guy, no matter what he's done. And I had no idea. Anyway, long story short, the cops came. And there's this guy. These guys disappeared, like just took off. And there's this guy listening, just out of reach, just kind of over there. And I'm talking to the police and I'm making a report, and they're asking me all these questions, and I'm looking over, and the guy's looking at me, and he looked like a scary dude. And so as they're asking me questions, I'm like, so did you know what? I'm like, and I didn't mention the knives or the axes. I said some guys were chasing a guy that had some blood on him, and then he ran down and da-da-da, and there obviously been some kind of altercation. It wasn't inside our place, and I told him, seeing him, we let him out the back way and told them to leave, and they went that way. They actually went that way. But I wasn't going to this guy's watching the whole time. Right. So after the cops leave, he looks at me and he gives me a nod like this. And I walk up and he starts to walk away. And I'm like, what was that all about? And the story is the guy went into an illegal Chinese sex parlor, and he was beating on the girl. And then the manager came in and he beat on the manager. And this guy was a really big dude. And so then when he went to go out, they had a couple of guys working security there, obviously. So he went to go out, and they had a bat by the door, slammed him in the face with a bat. Still didn't stop him. He ran out, and they chased him, and there you go.
I want to know what possessed that guy to be like, I'm running. I just got hit in the face with a baseball bat. I need to grab bottles of alcohol.
I have no idea. And I never saw the guy again, so I have no idea. But all I know is it was something out of a movie, to be honest with you. And not a movie I'd like to be in, but I was.
Yeah, man, we could probably sit here for hours going into the.
Where is crazier,
club
Tokyo
stories.
or Osaka? Like as far as the party vibes.
Well, I mean, Tokyo's Tokyo, you know.
Tokyo is
but Osaka used to be like a lot dirty. Like there was a lot messier stuff going on in Osaka back in the day. Yeah, when we first opened.
And this is what my Japanese friends all the time, man. Osaka has cleaned up,
huge,
rapidly. You
ridiculous.
can attest to
Oh
that.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
been
no.
here
I mean,
since the
I've
beginning of
been
time.
here. Yeah, I've been coming to
Well,
Osaka
give
for a long time.
the people watching for example, like what did
What's the biggest difference you would say? So just jumping, just to summarize, so in your opinion, how has Osaka changed in the time that you've been here?
Well-
Whether from a nightlife point of view or just in general?
Well, for one, obviously a lot more foreigners. Well, obviously not during COVID, but generally nightclub-wise, which is my business, is it used to be a lot crazier. I mean, it was for one, every place it was just looser, and when I say that, I mean that in a lot of different obvious ways. I mean, basically, people were there was a lot more sexual activity going on. People were doing crazy things. There was probably a lot more drugs as well, which is not something I get involved with, but you could see everything around, and you had places like Sam and Dave's, which now they have Sam One. There's one that's left. It used to be a chain, and they had one on Sakai Suji, Nagahori. They had it's called Nagahori, which was on Sakai Suji, but kind of on the way to Nagahori Dori, and that place was open till 7 or 8 in the morning. I used to date one of the pole dancers there, and that place was insane. You would never see something like this anywhere else. It was a huge place, right?
pole dancers and jail?
You would see, you know how you see sometimes these girls walking around, knowing the fashion world, and me being originally in fashion from Harajuku, the girls that wear they look like dollies, they're wearing you know what it's called or something. But anyway, that whole crew, you'd see they would sometimes say heavy metal lives, or whatever. But I mean, you just had every slice of Osaka life in subgenres in one
so
place,
dope.
and everyone just kind of interacted or didn't interact, but it was just so weird and crazy and insane, and you had just people were just everyone was just loving life and having fun, and the cops weren't concerned about it or anything. It was before they came and cracked down on it, so it was just absolute insanity, and in a good way though. Everyone was always so happy and up. And it was a lot of fun, honestly. The nightlife was so intense.
It's a one-word answer.
Yep.
What, in your opinion, what was the golden year of clubbing in Japan since you've been here? Can you pinpoint a year or a couple years that you're that was the golden day and age of clubbing?
Well, honestly, for me, it's going to come down to when I was in my early 30s, late 20s. I can't pinpoint a year because it has to do more with my age than with everything.
Right.
But yeah, that was in Tokyo and Osaka when I was late 20s, early 30s. It was just everything was it was a perfect time and perfect age for me to be out clubbing.
Okay, I'm curious. When foreigners come here, are they expecting a certain type of clubbing experience, similar to back their home country, or what?
How do you balance the expectations of Japanese clients and foreign clients? Are they the same? Because before you said when you're playing modern Western music and you've got foreigners that are oh, this is my jam, it obviously gets the mood going for the club. But do you have to tailor the experience to one or the other?
It's a really difficult thing to do, and the thing is, when I talk about nightlife and everything in Japan, I'm not one of those. Most club owners stay in their own little spot. Me, I go everywhere. And also, there are arguments between different places. I'm like Switzerland. Different bar owners, you'd be surprised. They got beefs with each other and the club as well. Me, when I tend to be a free pub bar crawl. When I go out and meet people, especially people from overseas, first time in Osaka, I'm if you guys want to come, I'm usually with a small group, there's a few people, and then it gets bigger and bigger. Maybe go down, up, depending on where we go. I'm what kind of place do you want to check out? Just take people around. I just like showing people Osaka. So it's not I don't get anything for it, but so it depends on what people like. Some people are looking for, there's a lot less hard techno or psyche, in Japan, in Osaka, where you got loads of options in Tokyo. But there are places though, and if you know where to go, it can be a lot of fun. And so I sometimes for example, there are certain clubs where it's very young. I mean, above age, but everyone in the club is 20, 21, 22 years old. And but when you get like say military guys that just got to Japan, they're in from Okinawa and they want to check out and they want to go to a place on a Wednesday night that's going to be packed and fun. People their own age, I take them there. They're like, it's like
how
they're the
did
only
you find this? Yeah.
Yeah. No, so but I like showing people what's good.
So what you made Pure? What makes Pure stand out? What makes Pure pure?
Oh, we're not that pure. that was kind of a joke from the beginning. We used to play crunk and stuff. Like back in the day, we were as dirty as it got back in Yokohama. So yeah, that was just kind of a joke, calling it pure. And honestly, the word pure wasn't even used that much back then. Anyway, pure though. Well, for one, we currently I'll talk about the current club. Like we have 4 different areas. 3 of them are open right now. We've got the Jaeger room, we've got the third, and the main floor, and we can play different genres of music on the same night. And also we have like areas where you got like most places you can only sit if you're VIP. We've got like free seating in like the Jaeger room and in the other and in the third, and it's got like totally different vibes, and like people that only like bars can come out and hang in the third, and it's chill. It's like Anyway, but it's also like we tend to. We have probably the best Latin party every month, every third Friday, reggaeton party called Purpler. But yeah, it's like I think also our staff have been around longer than any other club in Osaka, hands down. And in my place in Tokyo, the same. We our staff are solid. They're good people, and people are comfortable, safe.
All right. So also the audience doesn't know, but you also own a club called Voyager, and when I first...
You own Voyager?
I don't own it. I'm involved.
Okay, not owning Voyager.
You're involved?
I'm involved. Yeah,
Right.
I'm involved with a few of them, but yeah, I work with the owner. I'm an investor and consultant. In fact, today after this, I've got a meeting with those guys about some stuff. But yeah, the V, the big right across from Pure, there's the V, which is a huge bar, which is part of the Voyager group, and I'm very.
Well, it's interesting because I'm not really a club guy or a bar dude, but when I went to Voyager, you have the women dancing on the on the table, like slabs of rock. It's like a slab. They're like
I built all those actually. I do interior design and construction as well.
A man of many talents.
Yeah, bro. How are you getting your hand in all of these different things? Like, because it's not like
He's been here from the beginning.
Like for the foreigners that you first came here, were friends with when you first came here, like 30 years ago. Like, are they still here? What are they doing? Like, I feel like because a lot of people don't put their hands like your interior, clubs, bars, fashion.
I just get bored and interested in something else and want to do it. Like I'm not honestly like I've never been about. I mean, it's nice to make good money, but it's never been about the money for me. It's been more about like, do I enjoy what I'm doing at the time? So if something gets uninteresting,
T-shirt,
you gotta move on. Well, I don't move on necessarily. Like I have, I sold my fashion company way back. That's when I started Pure. But I'm more interested in like, if there's something else I can do, if things are going smoothly, then I have the time and the wherewithal to do something new, then I'll do it. Also, I like to work with, if I see somebody that's that's trying to do something that they're struggling to do, I'll give them the best advice I can. I like to mentor a bit or whatever. But if somebody has something they want to do, then I'll work with them if that's what they want to do. But I just like doing different stuff.
So what about for the audience that's like, I want to come to Japan and they first start out teaching, you know what I'm saying? Like, what advice would you give them to go out on their own?
To get out of that world.
It's all about your motivation. I mean, if you have something that you really love or want to do, that's the hard part, is deciding what it is that you want to do. Once you have that, Japan has made it actually easier than most countries, most other first world countries, so to speak, industrialized nations, to get a business license. So you can, and it used to be like when I first got mine, I had to have 2 full-time Japanese employees, or they had to have full, permanent PR, permanent visas. They could be foreigners, but you have to have full-timers and an office and all this other stuff. And the amount of investment, it was just like really a huge hurdle. I kind of worked around. There are a lot of loopholes there. Won't get into it, but that was back then. Now, if you have a certain amount of cash, I can't remember. I think it's like only 5 million yen right now. Yeah, Gohyakuman, yeah. So it's a lot easier now. And the thing is, as long as you have a really solid business plan, you know what you want to do, and they don't expect you to make money the first year out. I mean, as long as you meet the requirements, they'll give you a 1-year visa, as long as you have a solid business plan.
It's interesting to hear you say that it's gotten so much easier, because like my work in the startup world, we constantly hear how hard it is to start a business. But you're saying, no, it's, you guys should have seen it 15 years ago.
To start a business and make money is a hard part. I'm saying to get your visa going and actually get something running, it's like that's the easy part. Now, actually making the money, that's a whole nother story. But getting into it. Also, my background is actually computer science and engineering, so that's a whole other thing. But at any rate, the main thing is to get the ball rolling. And they don't expect you to make money in the first year. So as long as you're doing what you said you were going to do, and you keep up, then you can renew and move on. But it all depends, and you can change. You know, the only thing I would recommend also is when you make your company, there's something called the take-on that you put in, like the company articles of corporation.
What your company's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you can put in a lot of stuff in there. You're allowed to. So I recommend putting a lot of things, because you can.
Well, it's funny when my startup got going, when I got my company going, like for that, because it was risky at the time. You know, especially starting a startup, my biggest challenge was our business plan. The banks were like, what is this? Like, because we were just trying something like totally out there. So, but exactly that, we put responsibilities in there to where, like, if cash was at a standstill, I could go freelance teach or something. And legally it was fine because it was written into what our business has done.
You got it.
So there are like ways that you can kind of incorporate some safety nets into what you want to do.
Absolutely.
But yeah. It's super interesting.
Well, one thing you just mentioned with banks, this is probably some of the best advice I ever got from senpai, from someone who gave me, a guy who's probably not around anymore because he was quite elderly when I knew him. When I was in the clothing business, he told me, and I was doing quite well. I took my own horn a little bit. When I was 27, I was renting an 8-story building on Meiji-dori in Harajuku, and I was killing it back then. But I was making good money, as you would expect, and he told me, borrow money. I'm like, dude, I'm making good money. I don't need to borrow money. He's like, borrow money as much as you can from the best bank you can borrow from, and renew it constantly, because the lending rates are so low. It's like less than inflation. Well, not exactly, but literally next to nothing. And you'll build up your credit, and then when you do need it, they'll lend you as much as you need.
Because you got that track record.
Yeah, exactly. And I did exactly that, and it's exactly true. Because when I wanted to make pure Osaka, it cost, at the time, it would have cost a lot less now. Prices for doing renovations have gone down quite a bit, and I do a lot myself as well. But the banks, Mitsui Sumitomo, which is one of the most difficult banks to get loans from, they lent me, with my company and my signature loan, lent me quite a lot.
Nice chunk of cash.
A nice 6-figure, U.S. 6-figure sum, a nice eight 8-figure sum. Whatever. Unzenman, like I think it was like 60 or 70 million yen. So it's quite a bit of cash, and no equity, no nothing, just my signature. The company borrowing it and me as guarantor. And the time, visa-wise, I only had 3 years left in my business visa, and everyone was telling me there's no way you're going to be able to get a loan from the bank, and they did it. And just recently, with COVID going on, we had to make a huge loan as well, and no problem. In fact, they've called me and said, if you need a bump,
please let us. If you want to take more cash, please let us know. We gotta bring Stefan back in for more on that, because that's a whole separate conversation.
It's a whole different
deal.
But
I think to close it out, because like we said, we've got foreigners coming back to the country. I want you, top of your head, 3 tips for foreigners when they go clubbing in Japan. Maybe you do this or don't do this. What would you recommend? It can be either or, but what are 2 or 3 things you could say on like club etiquette? Be careful of this. Make sure you do this. From someone who's worked in nightlife for some time. I'll
tell you what, in recent years, again, that's another thing. Like, you don't get cheated as much, at places.
Botakuri.
Botakuri, and they have something called Meiro Kaike, which means that, they're not going to bill you for more, like if you get VIP or whatever. Just make sure, if you do get VIP or whatever, make sure you know exactly what you're getting into, and also just be polite. I mean, people, don't, if you get into a beef, or if you're with a group and anyone gets a little bit, you definitely don't want to get somebody get into even a small altercation and the police come, you're going to ruin your vacation. So, just be very careful. And, if people are if somebody is getting, fronting on you, like a bit, just just get away, stay away from, because that can happen as well, and that's a really sad situation when you get that. But just don't drink too much. Be polite, don't drink too much. And,
Don't drink too much.
And make sure you know, if you go into VIP, make sure you know what all the charges are, and they're pretty clear about it. But you don't want to be in a situation where they call the cops because you're not paying.
And make sure you visit Pure Osaka.
Yeah,
and
Pure
stop
Osaka,
by,
please.
see Stefan.
Swag.
Guys, thank you always for tuning in to another episode of the Kansai Collective. It's been a pleasure. If this is your first episode watching, or if this is your 40-something, whatever, how
If it's
many
your
we've
first,
done.
you got a treat today.
We appreciate you guys.
big
Thank you
treat.
always to our sponsors, The Deck, Hinomaru,
Yes.
Skyscape,
Oh, yeah.
Pure, Edge Wilderness, all the gang. If you guys want to tune in, sign into our Patreons, check us out on YouTube. We got Spotify for the podcast, and we'll see you guys all on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace out.
Kansai Kollective. West side of Japan, we out here coolin', Zane and Nasa got